Good day everyone, welcome in my class. I'm Teacher Dan. Our lesson for today is all about aquatic ecosystem. In this lesson, it will enable you to understand well the concepts of aquatic ecosystem, differentiate freshwater and marine ecosystem, identify the importance of water to people, community, animals, and environment, and classify different coast features appropriately. To start the lesson, let me ask you first, what is aquatic ecosystem? Basically, when it says aquatic ecosystem, it includes ocean, rivers, streams, estuaries, and wetlands. Living things like fish, plants, microorganisms, and other that depends on water for survival inhabit within this ecosystem. It is also considered very fragile and can be easily disturbed by pollution. And all living things within this ecosystem share the same watershed. Then, there are two types of aquatic ecosystem, such as freshwater ecosystem and marine ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystem includes lakes, ponds, freshwater, wetlands, rivers, and streams, while marine ecosystem includes abyssal plain, polar regions, coral reefs, deep sea, hydrothermal vents, keep forests, mangroves, open ocean, and rocky shores. I've said a while ago that all living things within aquatic ecosystem share a watershed. So let's discuss about watershed. In our life, we all live in a watershed or drainage basin because a watershed is an area of land over which water flows to reach a common body of water, such as lake or pond. It is also can be as large as the Mississippi River drainage basin or as small as farm. With a pond, it may be made up of mountains, farms, houses, businesses, or towns. It is undeniable that we people rely on water for survival. Every day we use water for many purposes. First, in agriculture, as our population increases, our demand for food increases too. That is why the idea of making an irrigation arise, which is an irrigation is the artificial watering of land that does not get enough water to rainfall. Based on facts, nearly 70% of all fresh water used in the world is for agricultural purposes. And in industry, about 20% of fresh water is used for industries which produce metals, woods, paper products, chemicals, petrol, and oil. And specifically in electrical generation, it is one of the larger industrial use of water. And in our domestic use, the remaining 10% of fresh water is used for indoor and outdoor household purposes. Because all the things we do at home or outside consumes water, like drinking, cooking, cleaning, and watering plants. Sadly, the water supply is becoming depleted in many parts of the world because over the last 300 years, the population increases 7 times while the amount of water we use increases 35 times. Here are some reasons why the demand of water increases. All living things rely on water for survival, which is true. And about 70% of water is used in the world today is used for farming. As what I have discussed earlier that nearly 70% of water is used for agricultural purposes. Next is water provides life, food, and identity. Because in our life we can't survive without the presence of water. And water can even generate electricity. Nowadays, water is used for generating electricity also because it serves as one of the renewable energy resources that we have. And there is only limited supply of water on earth, therefore we must look after it. We can't deny that humans use lots of water. So you are blessed if you can easily access water in your community because In other communities, some people carry gallons of water from the closest stream to their homes. Historically, ancient people builded their houses near a river, lakes, or oases, and other people collect rainwater. And based on our based on the findings of archaeologists, they find remainings of aqueduct which is used in transporting water. So we are done with freshwater ecosystem. Let's talk about marine ecosystem. Oceans. When we say ocean, it is the largest areas of water. And there are 5 oceans separated by the continents such as Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Southern, and Arctic Ocean. Looking on this map, the Indian Ocean is linked in the south by the Southern Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean lies to the north, and each of these ocean has its own range of temperature and flow of currents. But water usually close to the land are called seas. Thus, there are many seas than oceans. So, let's discuss further. Since we know that the seas are the water close to the land, then let's talk about the land close to the seas, which is called a coast. A coast is a strip of land that meets an ocean or sea. It can be measured as 312,000 miles or 502,000 kilometers if we will measure it around the world. Coasts have many different features, which is caused by the wave powers that I will discuss throughout this lesson. Some coasts are also changed by the flow of glaciers, which are huge rivers of ice and lava from volcanoes. And there are some harbors, coastal defenses, and artificial islands. These are examples of coastal features that made of humans. Moreover, in the coastline, you can observe the rising and falling of sea level. It is its movement called tides. These activity are caused by the pull of the moon's gravity, which is an invisible force pulling the earth. Looking at this picture, when the water level arise and flood parts of the coastline, it is called the high tide. This picture shows an example of a high tides. And when the water level falls, which shows the coastline, it is called the low tide. This picture shows what is low tides. Next is this picture shows a wave power. A wave power is a powerful wave which hits the rocky coast and results the rocks to break off and wear them away. And due to the wave powers, it forms cliffs, caves, arches, and stock and sums of coastal features. This picture shows an example of a cliffs. A cliffs form where high land meets the sea. It is formed when the land is battered by powerful waves at sea level, wearing the rock away. This picture shows a sea caves. When the cliffs are continuously battered by the powerful waves, it will result to form a sea caves. Next is arches. It is formed when both sides of the headland erode by the waves, eventually break it right through the headland, creating this feature. Next is stacks. When the sea caves and arches battered by the waves constantly, it will form this column of rock that is cut off from the coastline, which continues to stand. And this picture shows a beach and a dunes. Beach are formed when the water is calm and the waves deposit tiny pieces of rocks, while dunes are formed when the wind sweeps dry sand into the coast. This picture shows a tide pools. A tide pool, it is the seawater that is trapped along the rocky coast after the tide goes out. Next is the bar lagoons and spit. These coastal features forms when waves sweep pebbles and sand along beach longer and extend out into the sea. And this picture shows mud flats. When river carry with them pieces of mud which are deposited in the area where the river widens to join the sea. These areas are known as mud flats and they can be seen when the tide goes out. And this is example of a deltas. Deltas are areas of land that extend out from the coast. They form when river deposit their large load of mud and sand as they meet slowly and moving seawater. And next is salt marshes. Salt marshes are stretches of land along the coast which stays covered with plants that can survive in a salty seawater. We are done discussing about the coastal features that are caused by the wave powers. Now let's talk about kelps. Kelps are large brown seaweeds that grow on the underwater rocks from low tide downwards all around Scotland coast. This picture shows examples of what is the figure of kelps. Kelps have benefits and very important to us because it gives food and shelter for many marine animals, supporting food chains that include species of commercial significance. It plays a big role in recycling coastal nutrients. And there are some kinds of kelps. First is the Laminaria digitata. It's the main kelp seen on our seashores. It grows in a narrow band around low water. Next is QV kelp. It is the main forest-forming kelp in Scotland. It's only visible at the lowest tides. Next is the sugar kelp. Only forms forest and very sheltered places. And lastly is the Forbilose kelp. It's a quick-growing annual kelp. It may form forests where storms have removed other kelps. In addition, kelps have no roots. Instead, they attach to rocks with tough, branch hold fast. In place of true stems, kelps have stapes which holds them up towards the sunlight. Their palm-like fronds may be long and strap-shaped or split into several strap-like lobes depending on the species. So, our lesson ends in this slide. So, thank you for listening. I hope you learned a lot in our lesson.